I'm back with another Catherine video. This is a follow-up from the last one. It's just gonna include facts and stuff about Catherine that I found out, and I thought it was interesting enough to put in a video. Alright, let's get into it. We're gonna start off the video with things that I learned from an interview with Katsura Hashino, the director and producer of Catherine, and stuff that I learned from the Catherine art book. You may know this, but Billy Brown and Layla from Buffalo 66 are what inspired the looks of both Vincent Brooks and Catherine. And if you know the actor Vincent Gallo, that's where the name Vincent comes from. If you look at the two Vincents, you can clearly see the similarities in their blue eyes, facial structure, and Hashino said that he took some of the fashion sense with him. He said that he wanted Vincent to be a snappy dresser, or he thought no one would want to buy the game. You know, as for Catherine, you can see the similarities in their clothes and the blonde hair. That's why in the art book, the concept art for both characters stays pretty consistent, unlike the concept art for a character like Kay Catherine. Actually, these two aren't the only ones that were inspired by actors. Paul Newman is what inspired the looks for the boss. Paul Newman originally was supposed to be what inspired the looks for Vincent, but Hashino said that he was pretty old, so instead he was used to inspire the boss. Rest in peace, by the way. According to Hashino, Vincent's friends are also named after Hollywood heartthrobs, like Johnny is Johnny Depp, Orlando is Orlando Bloom, and Toby is Tobey Maguire. In the art book, I learned that originally Vincent was meant to be less sympathetic of a character than he is in the game now. Many of the changes came from the Atlas team sitting down with the female staff and listening to their thoughts on Vincent. Many thought that he was too unlikable and that they didn't want to play as him, partially because he was, a cheater. And since a pivotal part of the story revolves around him cheating, they had to make changes to his character to make him more likable. Regardless of the changes they made, it never seemed to justify the cheating to the female staff, who said things like, if it felt like cheating, then it's cheating. Which is a little funny knowing that's one of the things the boss says when Vincent says he didn't cheat.
If it feels like cheating, then it's cheating, right?
The encounter between C. Catherine and K. Catherine was first going to take place on a cliff, but then it was changed to take place in Vincent's room. If you think about it, how would this cliff interaction have even worked? Like, how would they have gotten on the cliff in the first place? And I'm assuming Catherine is probably getting chucked off the cliff, since we know in the interaction in the game she gets, stabbed. The only way I see this happening is if it started where, like, Vincent wakes up from a dream and the two Catherines are just there. But, like, part of the point of the whole scene was how real it felt. It felt so real to Vincent that he gave away the fact that he was cheating. So yeah, it kind of makes sense that they changed the scene. Another thing that I found interesting about Catherine's game direction is that Hashino said that they intentionally added elements that are synonymous with romance aptitude tests. Because according to Hashino, be you married or single, people flock towards romance aptitude tests. Well, in the game, I think he was referring to confessionals, where you're answering questions related to love, and after you're done giving your answers, you get your results, which in this case is the ending to Catherine. Hashino says, you hear people joke, hey baby, what's your sign? Better question would be, what's your ending? At the very least, it's very great bar talk. The other thing that I learned is that people kind of see Catherine as kind of a tech demo for the development of Persona 5. When the truth is that they were actually being developed alongside each other. Catherine acting as more of a test for how they're going to figure out how to animate and model Soejima's characters. Anyways, if it was some sort of demo, you'd think that the gameplay would be like Persona, not really, a climbing game. There's some mentions of Persona and Catherine, like little Easter eggs. In Full Body, in the Stray Sheep Bar, you can find plushies of Morgana, Teddy, and Koromaru. In Catherine Classic, it's just Teddy. I already mentioned this in the last video, but Persona 3 Portable includes Vincent in like a little segment where he's just talking to the protagonist, which I'm gonna say I don't think is canon It's Vincent, you know, he lives somewhere in America, and unless you think he took a flight to Japan, went to a bar to have some drinks and talked to some kid there and just went back, I don't believe it. I also saw someone point out in a Reddit thread that this Vincent has a mole which doesn't appear in the actual game. Last thing, in Full Body, Joker is a playable character in Babel. If you didn't know, Catherine, about 5 years before the game was actually made, it was originally just a pet project. Apparently the Atlas team would make these little games after finishing their biggest project, one of them being a box climbing puzzle game. Part of the reason they didn't pursue it further was due to technical limitations at the time, where machines couldn't handle true 3D, and eventually the Xbox 360 and PS3 came around, both being able to support a game like Catherine. So after having finished Persona 4, Hashino picked the game back up and formed a story that made sense with the logic of the game. Did you know that there was a trial version of Catherine that was released in Japan that was so hard that they had to change the game? Originally, the game would use randomly placed blocks and you had to figure your way out as you go. It was actually so hard that when they had 20 debuggers playing the final stage, none of them beat it. The only ones that were capable were two of the highly trained developers that they had, Hashino not included. You know, it was so hard that the only way to see the ending was on YouTube. The footage in the background is the Japanese demo, which I don't know if that's what he was referring to, but it ends with Catherine laughing and a line that reads, "Can't wait to meet you." The Golden Playhouse from Catherine was actually a parody based on the real-life Japanese television series, Golden Western Theater. You can see the similarities in its title font and intro that I don't have. Somebody who I assume was Japanese translated this interview that I found with Katsura Hashino from 2011, where they added that it was called the Golden Western Theater, and it was a Japanese TV show that aired in the 70s and 80s, showcasing mostly American movies. They also included a link to a YouTube video that showcased some of the opening titles so that we could see its similarity to the game. Sadly though, the video is unavailable and I can't seem to find anything when trying to search it on Google. If anyone knows how to dig up unavailable videos, then maybe one day we'll know what they're talking about. As for now, I'll just leave the link to the video in the description. Maybe someone who's Japanese in the audience, you know what the Golden Western Theater is, you know, leave a comment. I don't know. Atlas actually had difficulty trying to get some of the stores like Walmart and Target to actually sell Catherine due to its erotic elements and how it was marketed as an adult game. So Atlas strategized a plan in which they made a film reel of clips from different unspecified AAA games that featured content that was more explicit than Catherine. The thing was, these games were being sold by Walmart and Target. They pointed out to their representatives that Catherine had none of that content. They'd even go a step further and showcase their most explicit scenes. And it worked, because Catherine would finally be released in North America on July 26, 2011. Japan though, they had to use more alternative, toned-down versions of the cover, removing any of the suggestive elements. It would be released in Japan on February 17, 2011. There'd be a standard version alongside a deluxe Love Is Over edition that went for $80, which would include the game, an art book, Catherine sound disc CD, t-shirt, boxer shorts, and a pillowcase, all packaged in a stray sheet pizza box. Luckily, if you want one of these now, you can go ahead and buy it for triple the price on Amazon. Alright, we're gonna look at some of the game files. First, we're looking at a title screen that went unused. It was actually what I originally used for my thumbnail in my last video. Changed it though. You can see in the hands that it's kind of unfinished. The art kind of looks like it was in an experimental period where they didn't entirely know the atmosphere they're trying to create or the color scheme that they were going to use. This art feels weird. I would describe it as sort of sterile. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like you're in an office. There's also a loading screen in the files that looks similar and includes a quote from Thomas Mudden that translates to, "Life is a puzzle with no right answers." There's a 3D model that shares the design with the title screen, and it's also encasing this small puzzle section. So, for all we know, this could have been a level where Vincent has to face all these memories. There's some early versions of cell phone images along with the final version so you can compare. Not really much to talk about, except for two. One with Catherine in a bikini eating a hot dog. Pretty sexy, am I right? Okay, well, the early version is her in a America-style bikini. The final being just white and red stripes, which the early version kind of confirms the game is in America. In full body, it confirms it to be Neo Brooklyn, which is Brooklyn, but Neo. Originally, it was just an undefined American city. The next picture is one where Kay Catherine is slurping some noodles and looks like Vincent's room in the early version, and in the final, it looks like they're in a restaurant. Next, there's some older versions of the trophy images, which I kind of do like. Instead of a trophy of Trisha, it's a sheep. It seems that during development for some of the art, they took images of real-life drinks as references. As in the files, there are pictures of these drinks. You can find all the drinks, beer, whiskey, cocktail, and sake. Apparently, one of them was taken in the Manchuria Rina Museum in Tokyo, Japan, and there's an attached link to the site where the original image could be found. Again, unavailable. Two final placeholder images. One is a placeholder for the transition into the Nightmare World. Obviously, it's different since it's not animated and doesn't have that pink tint. Finally, a placeholder for the game over screen, and this one's different since in the final version it's animated and he's lying on a pile of blocks. Okay, so this final thing, and probably what I found most interesting, was when I was listening to the Japanese demo. I heard something.
それより聞いたか？ポールの話。死んだってやつ。
If you're an anime fan, you know what I'm talking about. Well, I found out the Japanese voice actor for Dio is actually the Japanese voice actor for Johnny and Catherine, which is Takehiro Koyasu. Orlando's voice actor, Hiroaki Hirata, does work for Polnareff in JoJo's All-Star Battle game. Isho Taniyama plays a more minor role of Yuya Fungami. Catherine's voice actor, Miyuki Sawashiro, played Jolene Kujo prior to the anime. He would act in games like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, All-Star Battle, and Eyes of Heaven. Thomas Mudden, or the boss's voice actor, Norio Wakamoto, was Dio in a 1993 CD radio drama. These radio dramas would adapt specific arcs from the Stardust Crusaders. So there's actually two Dio actors in one Catherine game, which was actually kind of crazy to find out. Alright, for the final part of the video, you're gonna see the secret ending. But before that, let me explain how you get it. Basically, for this ending, you're going to have to defeat Babel, which includes 4 of the most difficult levels that you can find in the game. You know, when I was looking for some help on Reddit, you can see that some of the people on there took years to beat some of the levels. So I'm a little proud to say I beat the first 2 levels in like 2 days. I didn't want the video to take too long to be released, so I did some cheating and played the final 2 levels on pairs mode, which makes it a little bit easier. But before we get to the ending, I'm going to explain a bit of the Catherine lore so that you can understand how we get to this ending. Well, in the beginning of the Babel section of the game, we talk to Trisha, who introduces us to Babel and all its levels. He tells us that we'll meet again if we can make it to the final stage. One last final thing that Trisha tells us before we make it to the top is that Trisha reveals something to us. Her name Trisha was just an alias, her true name being Ishtar. She's also the goddess of fertility. She also reveals that Astaroth was also her. She calls her one of her avatars. He says that she's a goddess of mercy and cruelty, so Astaroth was another side of herself in that nightmare stage. Ishtar also says that the whole prosperity of the human race thing was entirely a facade for what she was actually trying to do, which was finding a new partner. Because apparently Dumuzid, her former partner, was cheating. And she makes it clear that it's not Vincent who's caught her eye, but the one controlling him, which is us, the player. And if we want to win her heart, we have to beat Axis Mundi, the last and final level. Only the best of the best can beat this. All these levels that have led up to this are just practice for this level. I did beat it, so let's get to this ending. Trisha walking through the hallway to our bum-ass apartment, which she calls a dump, which, I mean, she's not wrong, but
I let my hair down.
she has her hair down.
Is this it? You watch the playhouse from in here?
She rings the door, and the player finally meets her in person. I'm just gonna let you enjoy the rest.
I came, as promised. You were magnificent. You handled the realm of the gods like it was your own backyard. Each move you made was a minor miracle itself. Like when you made that jump, and just thinking about it gets me excited. Don't you get it? I'm head over heels for you. You possess a power beyond anyone else. I haven't felt like this in a long while. I'm really taking a liking to you. It's such a waste to feel this love for a human. I know. I'll just make you one of us. Oh, I have so much planned to do with you, my new co-deity of love. I've got such a hunger for these feelings. I know you have some hungers as well, don't you? Come on. Are you gonna make me stand around like this much longer? Why don't you let me in? Well, will you? Well then, congratulations. And now, let's celebrate.
We celebrate already. You know what I mean? Well, this is the end and the ending for this Catherine video. Probably my favorite Atlas game because, I mean, where else are you gonna see some goddess juicers, right? You know? Well, next I'm probably going to make a vid on Resident Evil 7. Should come around sometime, so if you're looking forward to that, I'd really appreciate you giving the video a like and subscribing. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching.